Oh, okay.
And the citizens must be aware that if we continue down this road, we can be locked down up to 3 months,
Yeah, that's what
you
I'm
know, and
hearing.
then and
That's what
then
I'm hearing.
and then up to 6 months by
Wow.
way of the president and so forth. So we must be a little more disciplined in the way we move, especially now.
Wow. So 3 months. It all depends on the way we respond to it as a public.
That's correct. And that's where discipline, tolerance, production, the key words. So we started now with discipline, tolerance, and the production will fall in place because we can see where the economic side of it is going.
Hmm. My goodness. Well, last week you all started a conversation here with me that
Right.
shocked me. It it took the socks off my shoes. Dealing with some of the elements within the school, and I want to pick up from there. Um, Dealing with the fact that, in spite of everything that we're dealing with the COVID and all that, and we touch on some of those things tonight as well, in response to the state of
Yeah.
emergency. But I want to pick right back up first when you all gave me some information and our listeners dealing with the criminal elements that were within the system, and how do we address that? How does the National Council of Parent Teachers Association address it as a major stakeholder in making recommendations to the government? And does the government recognize it? And how is the response of the government? First, I want to find out what is your response as the president.
Dr. Green, my response as we start when we talk about the crime rate and so forth within the country, my response for crime clearly states that crime doesn't born big, right? We not seen any 5 and 6 year olds committing crime. We must look at it closely. And coming out of our primary schools, going into secondary schools, we will see where the school system and how the school system, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
that is where the crime starts. It starts young, practicing, training, and graduated into an adult. So
Mm-hmm.
here we have this adult committing the crime, but it wasn't. It's not the first time. It's not the first time. So we are looking to deal with our children in a manner from early childhood,
Mm-hmm.
the ECC system, that where discipline can take place. We don't have that facility anymore.
Right.
They're looking at spirituality within the school system as their way, religious bodies, and how they come about. The history of Presbyterian, where this is how the Muslim teaching is, and this is why. Trinidad and Guyana is the only two that has a multicultural background like that. Understand the history of our religious belief within.
It sounds, it doesn't even educated for the future. And in the to me, it doesn't sounds right.
Yeah.
But how much percent do you think in our system, from where you sit,
rehabilitated. I always complain because I think we are a reactive society instead of a proactive one.
hmm
You know the problems are going to come, and my question to them would be, if you know the problems are coming, why not circumvent? Why not find a way to deal with the problems as they arise? And that the problem exists, and it exists equally for boys and girls. All right.
hmm
I currently have a former student of mine who is incarcerated because at a tender age she started running away from home. I would be out of my house 1 o'clock in the morning looking for this child, and when she saw to realize that this is a child this is somebody's daughter, and to avoid having her maimed, buggered, raped, murdered, so she's currently incarcerated. The homes that they have for these children, these rehabilitation homes, can falling. I don't know how possible that would be at this point in time. Tooling these young
philosophy behind
is taking it's very fluid, it moves, and so we have to understand that we need they are present in class, but because they are so good, they are present in class.
And that
Comes in and child is playing a game with friends online, right? Mother walks into the room and realizes that. And I'm saying, but child, why is your camera off? Your camera needs to be on. So that's when she realizes, Miss, there's no learning taking place, right? So we have to learn to adapt, be able to reach my children at the end of the day, right? So
Ms. Zephyrin, she says, people mindset have to change, and as a part of the PTA advocates, we are willing to meet at their level. Met within the school, how it's being developed, how it's being in the whole structure and the whole education level, technology and otherwise, that contribute to the children not being where they're supposed to be. That gets within the school system. Now the teachers now have to say responsible the way they are, and the child in return drops out of school either because of discouragement, bullying, get involved with criminal activity, whatever it is. The percentage is growing higher and higher. Then you have COVID that makes it even worse, where doesn't allow you to really build relationships in the way that you used to do it. And so that heightens the chance of children getting frustrated. They're doing their thing. Abuse their or children is concerned, they are extremely vulnerable. As a matter of fact, because of what's going on in Trinidad and Tobago and globally, but let's talk about Trinidad. We have all become, in some sense, each other. Hang out, women are fed up with these men, and it's not a joke. It has created several layers of vulnerability within the structure of the home, and the children is within the branch of it. And when children want to apply, and like Mr. Ray said last week, one child said to a teacher, "Why would I spend all this time in school to come up with a job eventually that pays me $36,000 a year when I could get into drugs and whatever it is and make that in a day?" So it's more drugs, human trafficking, prostitution, whatever it takes for me to make some money. As long as I'm not found out by the authorities, I'm going to do it because they receive lucrative payoffs from some of the kids.
it's a cycle.
Wow. Mm.
It's a cycle.
Yes. And wow. We're talking to Mr. Clarence Mendoza. He's the acting president of the NCPTA, along with Miss Frances Sampson and Miss Sherry Zephyrin. What are we not going anywhere? A state of emergency for too long. It all depends on our
in front of our noses, we would have lost a generation to come.
right.
Mhm.
And I think it's not too late. We can do it now. And I think it can only be done by sitting on a round table
Hmm.
where everyone is considered equal
Yeah.
and where we can all share ideas, go in and see how best we can reform, transform these youths in our society today. It doesn't negate the fact that the stakeholders that you mentioned, Dr. Green, would be the NCPTA and tutor and persons like the principals associations and so on. But we must also have TTPS.
Right.
People are forgetting that they too are a stakeholder because
Right.
when they take a youth into custody, it's one gone. And so we have to remember that they are also stakeholders. How do we treat? How do we deal? Where do we go? Is there a process of reformation that is available? Can we come together? Can the different units come together and get the social work and the psychologists, the psychiatrists together and battle these ills in our society so that we can save our youths?
Hmm.
Thank you and have a good night.
You too. I don't know if Ms. Zephyrin have anything to say before we go. I know she's been very quiet, but she's been typing on the other side. So, Ms. Zephyrin, if you have anything to say, I'll give you a few seconds to indicate. Well, I don't think she's gonna say. Box and WCN radio. Um, it is not the intent of the radio station to solve the issues that are plaguing our country in the education system, but to bring awareness. And whether those conversations are pleasant to absorb or not, answer silently and it's going to kill all of us. So we're going to address them 1 week at a time. That's it's an ongoing conversation that we plan to have, addressing all the issues perspective and what they're going through. It would be great to hear their perspective. So I'm looking forward to speaking to the youth leader and anyone that he brings on. So bring him on. Big and broad perspective of what's going on in Trinidad and Tobago as far as the end